My entitled parents sold my laptop to buy my sister a $2,300 e-bike. So I said no and walked out forever. I never thought I'd find myself writing something like this, but here I am, still shaking as I type, trying to make sense of the last 48 hours. My whole life, I've been the responsible kid. I followed the rules, kept my grades up, worked part-time jobs to save money for school, and always tried to make my parents proud. I didn't rebel, I didn't complain, well, not too loudly anyway, and I thought that meant we had a mutual respect. But apparently I was wrong. For as long as I can remember, my parents have had a favorite, my younger sister. She's the golden child in every sense. Smart, cute, charming, and completely spoiled. My parents bend over backward for her. Every accomplishment of hers is celebrated like a national holiday, while my successes are treated like they're expected, almost routine. I've lost count of the times I've stayed up late, saved every penny, and then watched my parents lavish gifts, trips, or money on her. I chalked it up to being fair. She's younger, I thought. But over the years, it started to feel less like fairness and more like blatant favoritism. Yesterday, I learned just how deep the entitlement goes. I'd been saving for months for a new laptop. My old one had been struggling, and I needed it for school, work, and some freelance projects I was finally starting to get into. I was excited. It felt like a real step toward my independence. I had it all planned, budget carefully by exactly what I needed, maybe even set aside a little for software I've been wanting. I was proud of myself for sticking to my plan, for working hard without expecting handouts. Then, without any warning, I discovered my laptop was gone. Sold. I didn't even realize it at first. I searched every drawer, my backpack, even my room. Then I asked my mom, hesitantly, Mom, have you seen my laptop? She looked at me like I'd asked for a kidney. Oh, we sold it. What? I nearly dropped my phone. We needed the money for your sister's e-bike. I blinked. Her e-bike. Yes, she said casually. $2,300. It's a limited edition. She's been saving for it, but wasn't close enough. We thought we'd help. You know, family. Family. I laughed nervously. Family. My parents had sold my laptop, the one thing I'd been saving for and needed for work and school, to buy a $2,300 e-bike for my sister, because apparently her happiness matters more than my education, my career, or my hard work. I tried to reason with them, but it was like talking to a wall. Can you at least let me replace it first? I asked. No, we needed the money now. She deserves it. You'll manage somehow, my dad said, like it was that simple. And then came the kicker. They expected me to pay her rent too. Not a small favor. Her full share of rent for the next month. Their reasoning? You're older. You can help. It's family. You have a job. I froze. My heart pounded. Every year, every gift they forced me to buy her, every time they leaned on me to make up for her mistakes, every expectation they placed on me, suddenly it all clicked. This wasn't about helping family. It was about control, about favoritism, about me being the bank for their golden child while they continued to coddle her. And I snapped. I looked at my parents, the absurdity of it all finally fully hitting me. The betrayal. The years of silent resentment boiling over. And I said one word. No. One word. Simple. Clear. They froze. My mom opened her mouth, probably to argue. My dad's face turned red. But I didn't give them the chance. I grabbed my coat, my few essentials, and walked out the door. Every step away from that house felt like lifting a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. I didn't know where I was going at first. Relief, fear, anger, they all collided inside me. I was terrified of what comes next. I didn't have a solid plan. I just knew I couldn't stay. Not another minute. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Free from constant manipulation, from being the scapegoat, from being expected to pay for someone else's life, while mine was undervalued. I knew I'd have to work harder, start from scratch, and probably feel a lot of guilt. And I'll admit, that part scares me. But it's nothing compared to the relief of not being part of that twisted dynamic anymore. I don't know if they'll ever understand why I left. They might call me selfish. They might try to guilt me. But maybe that's the point. They've been selfish all along. They sold my laptop. They demanded I pay my sister's rent. They prioritized her wants over my necessities, over my independence, over my future. I walked away. I can't go back. And for the first time, I'm actually okay with that. I guess what I want to know is, has anyone else had a moment where you just had to say no to your family and it changed everything? Because right now, I feel like I've crossed a line I can't return from. And for once, I don't want to. Update 1: My parents tried everything to make me come back after I walked out, but I refused. I didn't sleep much the night I walked out. My mind raced between relief and panic. Relief that I finally stood up for myself, and panic because, well, I had no backup plan. I didn't even know where I was going to stay. But one thing was clear. I couldn't and wouldn't go back. By the next morning, the fallout began. My phone exploded with missed calls and texts from my parents. First, my mom. Please come back. We can talk. We didn't mean to upset you. She really needs your help. Then my dad, trying a different tactic. Think about what you're doing. You can't just throw your family away over a laptop. You're being ridiculous. And there were a few messages from my sister, too. They ranged from subtle guilt trips, I'm sad you don't care about me anymore, to outright manipulation. Mom and Dad are so stressed. You're making things worse. I didn't reply. Not one word. They tried everything. First, guilt. They reminded me of every sacrifice they claimed to have made for me. We gave you food, shelter, education. Yes, they did, but they never valued my effort or independence. I didn't argue. I didn't respond. I just held on to that simple word I'd said the night before, no. Then they tried fear. My parents hinted I'd regret leaving, that I'd struggle on my own, that I was cutting ties with my family forever. I won't lie, the fear hit me. I knew they were right. Life would be harder without their roof or my sister's constant social connections. But I reminded myself of everything that led me here. The years of favoritism, the endless, you can cover this, or you should buy that for her. The laptop was just the last straw. I couldn't let fear force me back into a toxic system. I had to figure out the practical side of things. I reached out to a friend I trusted, someone who knew my situation and had room for me temporarily. They offered me a couch for a few weeks, and it felt like a lifeline. That small gesture made me realize something important. I don't need my family's permission to live my life. In the days that followed, I started picking up freelance projects and odd jobs to cover rent and basic expenses. It wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't easy, but every dollar I earned felt like freedom. Every step I took toward independence reinforced the decision I made the night I walked out. Meanwhile, the family drama continued. My parents tried passive-aggressive tactics, sending mutual friends to check on me, posting cryptic messages online about how ungrateful I am, and even dropping by my temporary place. Thankfully, I wasn't there. My sister, of course, posted stories about how hard life was without me helping her. I saw some of it, and honestly, I laughed. All the entitlement, all the manipulation, it was almost comical from a distance. But there were moments of doubt. I'll admit it. I missed parts of my old life, my room, my routines, the small comforts I took for granted. Some nights, I lay awake wondering if I made a mistake, if I'd gone too far. But then I remembered the laptop, the rent demands, the years of favoritism. I remembered feeling invisible, and suddenly, any doubt disappeared. I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't selfish. I was finally prioritizing myself. I also realized how much I'd been conditioned to feel guilty. Every time I tried to save money, my parents would guilt me into spending it on my sister. Every time I wanted something for myself, they'd remind me that my sister needed it more. Walking out stripped away the guilt. I was finally free to make choices that benefited me, not them. One unexpected thing happened, though. I found support in people I hadn't expected, friends, distant relatives, even some coworkers who'd seen me being walked over. Their encouragement reminded me that family isn't just blood, it's the people who respect and uplift you. It made me realize something critical. Independence isn't just about money or living on your own. It's about choosing the people who treat you like you matter. Over the next couple of weeks, I got a small apartment. Not fancy, not perfect, but mine. I set up a modest workspace, grabbed a used laptop to replace the one sold, and began the slow process of building my life outside my family's influence. Every email I sent, every project I completed, every dollar I earned on my own, it was a victory. Each one reminded me that leaving wasn't just justified, it was necessary. Of course, the family didn't take this quietly. My parents called, texted, and even sent letters. They painted me as cruel, selfish, ungrateful, even heartless. But here's the thing, I realized the only person I needed to answer to was myself. My parents' narrative didn't reflect reality. It reflected their bias, their favoritism, and their unwillingness to face their own mistakes. My sister? She hasn't spoken to me since. A few months ago, I saw she posted a picture with her new e-bike, captioned with some passive-aggressive note about family sacrifices. Honestly, it barely registered. I don't need her approval. I don't need their validation. I just need to live my life on my own terms. The best part? I've started reclaiming the sense of control I lost years ago. I'm not perfect. I still worry, still question myself. But every day I make my own decisions, set my own boundaries, and refuse to be walked over. I've even started saving for things I want, for the first time ever, without feeling guilty about someone else getting more deserving treatment. I guess the takeaway is this. Walking away was terrifying, but it's the bravest, most empowering thing I've ever done. My parents and sister might never understand, but that's not my burden anymore. The laptop, the rent demands, the favoritism, it all taught me a critical lesson. Sometimes the best way to love yourself is to say one simple word.
No.
And keep walking. Update 2: I walked out on my family, and life has completely changed for all of us. It's been months since I walked out of my parents' house. Months since I said no and refused to cover my sister's rent or watch them prioritize her over me. And honestly, life has never felt clearer or freer. When I first left, it was terrifying. I had a small apartment, a barely functional laptop, and freelance jobs that barely covered rent and bills. But step by step, day by day, I started reclaiming my life. I got a more stable freelance gig, started building a savings fund, and even began planning long-term goals, something I'd never been able to do under my parents' shadow. At first, my parents tried everything to pull me back. Calls, texts, guilt trips, even mutual friends bringing up my responsibility to my sister. At one point, my mom left a long voicemail where she tried to make me feel bad, saying things like, "We did so much for you. How can you just throw your family away?" I listened, and then I deleted it. Because for the first time, I realized my parents' version of family didn't include respect or fairness. It included control. And I wasn't signing up for that anymore. Meanwhile, my sister, oh, she hasn't had it easy either. That $2,300 e-bike they bought her broke within a month. No one taught her to take care of it, and she refused to learn. Her golden child status didn't protect her from the consequences of entitlement. Watching her struggle, while feeling zero guilt for my distance, was oddly satisfying. I won't lie. My parents' attempts to manipulate me continued sporadically. They'd send indirect messages through relatives, post cryptic updates on social media about how hard life is without me, or try to shame me with old photos and memories. But with each attempt, I grew more immune. I realized the control they wielded over me was gone, and it couldn't be reclaimed unless I let it. Financially, independence is a slow climb, but I've learned so much. I've budgeted, invested, and planned for the first time in my life. Every paycheck doesn't just cover bills, it represents freedom, choice, and validation that I can survive outside their control. I've even started saving for a proper laptop again, the one I had to give up, and it feels amazing knowing I'm doing it on my own terms. There's also been emotional growth. I've learned to trust my own judgment, set boundaries, and recognize manipulation. I no longer apologize for putting myself first. I no longer feel guilty for refusing to support someone who never appreciated my effort. And I've realized that some relationships, blood or not, aren't worth the sacrifice of your own self-respect. The contrast between my life and theirs is stark. My parents are still wrapped up in their favoritism, my sister is still entitled, and they're all too proud to admit any fault. I hear stories from mutual relatives about arguments over money, complaints about me, abandoning family, and my sister continuing to post passive-aggressive content online. It's almost surreal. But I don't feel anger anymore, just clarity. One of the most surprising things? I've built a network of support outside my family. Friends, coworkers, even distant relatives who see me for who I am, not for what I can provide, have become my chosen family. They remind me every day that I don't need validation from people who never valued me. And in turn, I've been able to help them in ways that are reciprocal and fulfilling, not obligatory. There have been small victories along the way. My first full paycheck on my own, completely untied to their whims. Completing a freelance project I'd been hesitant to take because of fear of failure. Even little things like eating a meal I cooked for myself without anyone critiquing or undermining me. Each of these moments has reinforced that leaving wasn't just justified, it was necessary. And yet, life outside that toxic environment hasn't been without reflection. There are times I think about them, about what could have been if fairness had existed. But then I remind myself, fairness never did exist. Their love was conditional, their family, always about control, and their sacrifices, always about their golden child. Walking away wasn't just about rejecting a laptop or rent demands, it was about rejecting a system that was designed to diminish me. My sister's reaction, of course, has been interesting. She's complained online, subtly or not, about how ungrateful I am. She's tried to shame me publicly, assuming that social pressure might make me crack. But I don't engage. I've realized that arguing with someone who thrives on entitlement is pointless. Distance has given me peace. I've also started reflecting on personal growth. Walking out taught me that boundaries aren't just rules, they're lifelines. Saying no isn't cruel, it's essential. Protecting your energy, your finances, your time, and your self-respect isn't selfish, it's survival. And life on the other side of fear? It's empowering. The most profound realization has been the clarity of choice. I choose who I allow in my life, how I spend my time, and what I invest in emotionally. I've realized that independence isn't just about finances, it's about agency. And that agency has made me more confident, resilient, and self-aware than I ever thought possible. There are days when I still think about the old life, the old home, the familiarity. But those thoughts aren't regrets. They're memories that remind me why I left. Every struggle I face now is mine, and that's the point. I own it. I control it. I shape it. And every day, that feels better than any gift or favor I could have received from my parents. The final icing on the cake? For the first time, I'm planning for my future without their interference. Education, career, hobbies, I'm finally pursuing them for me, not because it's expected or for the family. And the freedom that comes from that perspective? Priceless. I don't know if my parents or sister will ever change. I don't know if I'll ever speak to them again. But for the first time, I feel truly free from the cycles of favoritism, entitlement, and manipulation that defined my early life. I've learned the hard way that sometimes walking away is the only path to reclaiming your dignity, and it's worth every terrifying step. So here I am months later. No laptop at first, but one on the way. No golden child favoritism, no constant demands, no guilt trips. Just freedom, clarity, and the knowledge that standing up for myself wasn't just right, it was essential. Sometimes you have to break away to grow. And that's exactly what I did.